Now we will look at another beautiful animal, the horse. Let's see, maybe you have seen a horse at the beach or somewhere, or a wedding, or some pictures. Let's learn to write about a horse. Now a horse is a lovely animal. Like dogs, horses are very beautiful, intelligent animals. They say just like the dog is faithful to the master, the horse also is a faithful animal. Okay? And many people are very fond of keeping horses, although it's costly. Now, what are the uses of a horse? We use horses for riding, pulling carts, sometimes for cultivating in the field. The uses. Then, when you talk about a horse, when you look at the old pictures, what do you see? The horses were used during battles to fight big wars those days. So the kings used to love and keep a special horse as his pet. And they say they're so friendly, they take good care of it. It's a strong, swift animal. It can run long distances. They are loyal. They also help their master in time of danger. Then one fascinating thing about it, you never see a horse seated. It's always standing. And sometimes you've seen they put cover for the eyes so that the horse goes in one direction. Yes? So now, and then you have seen the hair of the horse, the tail of the horse, they all look so beautiful, isn't it? So now, today we are going to learn to write about the horse, a beautiful little animal, the horse. So when you talk about horse, what will you write first? Dogs are a faithful animal, like dogs. Like dogs, just like dogs, horses are very faithful animals. Like dog, horses are very faithful. Very faithful animals. So we are talking about a faithful animal. They also say horses are great friends of man, very friendly. They are very friendly. They are very friendly to man. Then what do we say next? Like the dog, they are faithful animals. They are very friendly. They are very nice to men. Then what do you use the horse for? Normally you see we use horses for riding. So we can say they are used for riding, horse riding. Riding, they are used for riding. What else? Racing. Horse races you have heard of. And pulling carts. Tonka, you would have seen tonka, pulling carts. And what else? And sometimes for cultivating in the field, pulling carts and cultivating, fields. So what are horses? Like dogs, horses are very faithful animal. They are very friendly to man. They are used for riding, for horse races, for pulling carts and cultivating fields. So all these are the uses of a horse. Now when you talk about horse, when you look at a picture of a horse, you think of the olden days. So in the olden days, horses were used during battles. Yes, in the olden days, in the olden days, in the olden days, horses were used, horses were used where used during battles, during battles. Okay. So like dogs, horses are very faithful animals. They are very kind to man. They are used for riding, racing, pulling carts and cultivating fields. In the olden days, the horses were used in the battles. Now what kind of a animal is horse? It is swift. It can run fast. It's a swift and strong animal and it can run long distances. So you will say a horse is a swift and strong animal. It is swift and strong animal and can run. It can run long distances and can run long distances. So it's fast, it's quick, it's strong and it can run long distances. Then what do you say? It's a loyal friend. They say in the olden days, the history says horses are loyal and has helped to save masters' lives. So they say history is full of stories about history is full of stories. History is full of stories about loyal horses. History is full of stories about loyal horses who helped to save, who helped and saved their master, who helped and saved their masters. So what are the different kinds of stories you read in the history? They say history is full of stories about horses who helped and saved their masters. What is the fascinating thing about a horse? A horse is never seen seated, it's always standing. Okay, one fascinating thing about a horse, about horses is that they never sit. That they never sit. You are always seeing the horses standing. Then, what do you call the male? The male horse is known as the male horse. The male horse is known as stallion. The male horse is known as a stallion. The female, what do you call the female? Mare. The female, what do you call the female? Mare. All right. What do you call the baby? The baby horse, the baby horse is called a foal, or you can also say a colt or a colt. Okay. A horse, it has got beauty, grace, and they say utility. It's beautiful, it's graceful, and it is useful. So you say a horse is a horse is a horse has beauty, it's beautiful, okay. Beauty, a horse has beauty, grace, it looks lovely to look at, okay, isn't it? Grace and utility, it is useful. You can go on writing about a horse, colors, some are black, brown, whatever. You can talk about the horse's hair on its back, you can talk about the lovely tail of the horse is most attractive. Sometimes the face and the eyes, they really look lovely, the ears stick out so beautifully. Now, you can write a lot of detail, but here we are writing a short composition about a horse. When we talk about a horse, we say, like dogs, the horses are very faithful animal. Dogs are faithful, similarly the horses also. They are very friendly to man, faithful to man, friendly to mankind. They are used for riding, horse racing, pulling carts, and sometimes cultivating in the fields. In the olden days, when you talk about horse, in the olden days, horses were used during battles, to fight battles. A horse is fast, so we say it's swift, it is strong animal and can run long distances. Then, when you talk about stories in the book, history is full of stories about loyal horses who helped and saved their masters, faithful, loving to masters. Okay. One fascinating thing about horses is that they never sit. You always see a horse standing, the horse never sits. The male horse is known as stallion, female we say mare, and the baby horse, either you call it a foal or a colt. Now, there are several uses of a horse. A horse has beauty, it's got grace and utility. It is useful, it is lovely to look at. The most beautiful animal that you can write about. So, you can write more detail if you like, but now we are learning a short composition on the horse. Next we are going to learn to write about a visit to a zoo. When you talk about zoo, most children who love animals are always excited and very curious. Looking at pictures, you love animals, but seeing a real animal is really most exciting. Going to a zoo, looking at different shapes of animals, their colors, how they behave, what they eat, how they really look like, their sizes, it is really nice to admire them. And some children get fascinated looking at them. The ferocious animals are kept in a nice hard enclosure so that it doesn't harm the visitors. Some zoos right there do not feed animals. I remember looking somewhere and somebody tried to feed an animal and lost finger. So, always follow, when you go to the zoo, instructions written, do not feed animals. They may get sick or you may lose your finger. Which do you prefer? Now, the wild animals are kept in large, spacious enclosures, and they have acres of land enclosed so that these animals are protected, they are safe, they get enough food, they get enough water, there is a caretaker and so on. Now, there are different kinds of animals you find in the zoo. You find wild ones, you also find tame ones, you find varieties of birds, birds in the pond, birds in the cage, all kinds of things. Whatever animal you want to see, it is there in the zoo. And that is why some children get fascinated. Now, who normally takes you to the zoo? It's always the school. The school, the teacher will say, come on, we have learned about the zoo, animals that are kept in the zoo. We can't afford to go to the forest. We can go to a zoo where these are taken care of, wild animals. So, we can look at them and see and enjoy. So, the teacher arranges for a picnic, a short picnic to the zoo. What does the teacher do? She collects money, she arranges a nice bus, and there we go to the zoo. And then at the zoo, what do you see? Teacher arranges, put us all into groups, and group by group we go walking, looking at all the wonderful animals over there. Then what else you do when you are tired? You sit down, open your snack box, you have your snacks, and then finally you get back into the bus and you come home. The next day the teacher says, come on, let's write about the zoo, and that's what we are going to do now. We are going to write about our experiences looking at all the lovely animals and birds that we saw. Visit to a zoo. Visit to a zoo. So, we finish going to the zoo and now we are going to write about it. Okay. A visit to the zoo is always a pleasure for all animal lovers. Yes or no? Yes. A visit to the zoo, is always a pleasure for all animal lovers. For all animal love. Do you love animals? Then zoo is a nice place, isn't it? lovers. Why is it a pleasure to look at them? Because they are so huge, and the way they look, their colors, their movement, it all fascinates you, isn't it? So, a visit to the zoo is always a pleasure for the animal lovers. Now, what is a zoo? A zoo is a place where all kinds of animals are kept in safety. So, a zoo is a place. A zoo is a place where all kinds of animals, where all kinds, big and small, thin and fat, beautiful and ugly, all kinds of animals are kept. That's a place where they're kept. Now, they are not kept all together. So many acres of land, everybody is not running about like the jungle. But in a zoo, they are all kept in separate enclosures. That's the beauty of the zoo. In the wild, in the open, in the large forest, they are left loose. That is their home, a free home. But in a zoo, they are kept in a large spacious place, but in different enclosures, different animal. Only then the animal keeper can feed it correctly. So, they are kept in separate cages. They are kept in separate cages and enclosures for feeding purpose, cleaning purpose. Cages and enclosures so they are kept, where are they kept? They are kept in separate cages and enclosures, not only for feeding, taking care of them, cleaning and all that. Now, last month our teacher took us to a zoo. So, when did you go? You went last month or last week? You can say last week. Last week our class visited a large zoo. So, you are all very happy. The last week we all went to the zoo. Now, there were many kinds of trees and plants and bushes. Why do we need trees and plants and bushes? For the animals to move about. Now, there were many kinds of trees, plants and bushes. There were wild and tame animals, and birds of all varieties and birds of all kinds. What was the instruction given at the zoo? We were told not to feed Not only to feed, not to tease also. Don't make fun, then they get very angry. So, we were told not to feed or tease the animals. They will get wild. You tease your friends, isn't it? And the friends will get wild. So, the animals are supposed to be in their surrounding, they need to be happy, they need to be on their own. So, you are not to feed them. There are zookeepers allotted for feeding, and you are not to tease them and upset them. You are only supposed to look at them and move on. Okay. There were a lot of animals, small animals in the pond. There were, what are the things put in the pond? There were a lot of frogs and snakes and crocodiles. There were lots of frogs, snakes, and other than crocodiles, what else you will find? Ducks, and there will be a crocodile section also. Okay. It was fascinating to look at the huge animals. It was very fascinating watching the huge animals. As time went by, we were tired. We sat down, had our snacks, and returned home. As time went by, we were tired. We got into our groups. We got into our groups and had our snacks. We were sad to return home, to return to school. We were sad to return to school. We thanked our teacher for the lovely time spent at the zoo. What did we do? We thanked our teacher for taking us to the zoo. So that's it. So now we learn to write about the zoo, the visit to the zoo. Now, first of all, we went to the zoo. The teacher made preparation to call the children to the zoo. And now we are going to write about it. What are we writing? Visit to a zoo. A visit to a zoo is always a pleasure for all animal lovers. We all love some kind of animal, a pussycat or a dog or a bird in the house or fish, something. We love some type of animal to take care of. So, we all love animals. Okay? So, especially for animal lover, it's a pleasure visiting a large zoo. A zoo is a place where all kinds of animals are kept in enclosures in safety. They are kept in separate cages and enclosures so that they can clean them and feed them. Last week, our class visited a large zoo. Who took you to the zoo? The class teacher. There where many kinds of trees, plants and bushes, and then you can elaborate there. Trees and plants and bushes for what? Main leaves, maybe for monkeys, bushes for birds, some birds will be on the tree, so all kinds. There were wild and tame animals and birds of all kinds, and all colors and sizes. You can elaborate on that. You can say the different type of birds you saw in the pond. You can write about the size of the birds, pelicans, huge one, to tiny sparrows. Okay? Then we were told not to feed or tease the animal. Teasing is forbidden. You cannot disturb the mood of the, you can say, mood of the animals. Then there were lots of frogs, snakes and ducks. Where? In the pond. You can say it was a large pond and you saw all this. Then you can also write about the aquarium, different type of colors and size of fishes you saw. If you write, it will come much more, but this is a short composition. It was very fascinating watching the huge animals. As time went by, we were tired. We got into our groups and had our snacks. We were sad to return to school. We thanked the teacher for taking us to the zoo. So you can also write in detail your travel in the bus to the zoo, how you returned. Maybe you took some pictures with the permission of the zookeeper. You had to take an early permission. Now how you stood by the animal and you took photo, and when you came home, how happy you were.